Nick, you've crunched the numbers in Bowen's transition to lower emissions and higher renewables. How do these figures stack up?
Yeah, not just me, Fred. I don't want people to think that I just did this, in my own spare time. This is the Australian Energy Market Operator, right? They are the mob who are supposed to keep the electricity flowing to our homes. And they say, and this is based on Labor's 43% target, that we are going to have to triple the amount of wind and solar farms that we have right now by 2030. Somehow we've got to plan them, put them in place, have them up and running by 2030. We're going to have to cut the amount of coal out of the system by 60%. So 60% of the coal generation that's currently in operation is going to have to disappear by 2030. We're going to have to triple the amount of rooftop solar, and they're going to have to increase the amount of storage, batteries presumably, because they don't have any other ideas, by 7 times, right? All this in the space of 8 years. But wait, that's only just beginning, because you've only got to 2030, then he wants to get to zero 2050 without the benefit of nuclear or anything else. He's not counting any. He hates nuclear. He says it's too expensive. So instead, they're going to have to increase in all wind and solar farms by 9 times by 2050. And you can imagine what that's going to do to the landscape. I mean, we did the calculation. If you were going to do all that just with solar, so all you're going to do is put solar panels in, you'd have to have a solar farm twice the size of Canberra to do that. But that's what the numbers say. If you're not going to do it by more sensible means, that's where you end up.
How does coal fit into that? You said 60% reduction of coal-fired power stations.
Yeah.
Any particular ones?
Well, you can go through the list and work out which are due to come off the grid more quickly because they're reaching the end of their lives. But all those are going to be accelerated. And we also know that the energy companies are very clever at cutting their losses by closing a coal-fired power station if it means the price of gas goes up or whatever. So, yeah, 60% of that will go by 2030. All of it will go by 2043. So just over 20 years, no coal, which is fine if you've got some idea of what you're going to put in, because coal produces what? Most of our electricity by now, by far the largest amount. And certainly, there are times of day when the sun unfortunately stops shining and there may not be as much wind around as we like. Then you're using coal pretty much. That's all you're using over the whole country. And yet there's nothing in Bowen's plan that I can see to make up that gap, apart from more and more renewables, and a lot of renewables. I think people are going to be sick of renewables by the time this man finishes.
It's a renewable policy, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Nick, your own organisation, the Menzies Research Centre, published costings of Labor's previous policy on this topic in 2019, which found the policy would cost the nation almost $500 billion and 167,000 jobs by 2030. Those figures, when they were published, arguably cost Labor, under Bill Shorten, the election. It looks like Labor cut you off at the pass this time because it's released its own modelling and found its emissions reduction plan would actually create 604,000 new jobs and increase GDP by a third. Nick, which figures can we believe?
I think you believe Dr. Brian Fisher's figures. I mean, he's the best climate economist in Australia, possibly the world, that we commissioned to do this work. And I think you've had a look at Chris Bowen's modelling and how flimsy it is, where this magic 600 jobs come from. But the other thing in that modelling that they predict, and they promised us before the election, it's all in the modelling, they said. Electricity bills will fall by an average of $275 per household per year in our first term of government. And they promised that on at least 15 occasions that I've counted up. Since the election, no, not promised it again, despite plenty of invitations from Peter Dutton and his team to repeat that figure in question time. They've dodged it, which makes me think that they realise, like the rest of us, it's bunkum. It's not going to happen. In fact, we'd be lucky if we get away with electricity prices going up by a mere $275, let alone coming down.